Dr. Ginny here, getting over COVID. I've been feeling pretty well since about last Friday, but I still have some symptoms. So excuse the voice, excuse the congestion in my head. I think we can do this. I missed the last 2 weeks. I was presenting at the American Psychological Association conference in Seattle, which is where I got in touch with COVID. So anyway, many of us have regrets about dieting, and I'd love to hear yours. I was thinking about my dieting regrets that I really got to age 55 before I figured out what actually works, and it started completely changing my mindset about how I eat and how I approach drinking and about my body and my weight and all those things. And it has turned from I didn't realize how unhealthy my mindset was, how unhelpful it was. I thought I was doing the right things, but all these mindsets started to shift. So I'm going to share with you today how the whole dieting mindset is completely wrong and how I gradually came to see that a healthy eating mindset is 180 degrees different. And I'm going to share a bit about my story to tell you about my dieting regrets. When I think about how I was raised to eat, there is a lot good about it. My mom, I don't know if people are the same age as me, they might know Dr. Spock, but my mom was following Dr. Spock. And Dr. Spock led her to make sure that she didn't cause like eating issues for us, right? So they never made us clean our plate. They never made us eat anything we didn't want to eat. I remember a babysitter once making me sit at the dining table from lunchtime in front of a bowl of cream of mushroom soup, which just seemed totally gross and disgusting to me. Now I love mushroom soup, but you know how kids can have to get used to things and textures can bother us and smells. It was out of a can, right? So my mom was really mad that my babysitter made me sit there all day in front of this thing I didn't want to eat. Like, yeah, like she's just trying to force me. So my mom didn't raise us with those kinds of ideas. She also did not cater to us. So she would make what she considered to be a wholesome meal. She would put these things on the table and we would eat what we wanted to eat. And if we didn't want too much, we would be hungry until the next day. She didn't cater to us. Also, I was able to stay quite naturally slender throughout adolescence and my 20s and my 30s. If my clothes started getting tight, I never wanted to do anything radical. I would just do what the doctors and the articles and the dietitians said. I would just eat less and increase my efforts at the gym. And it seemed to work for staying fit and healthy and slender. For a long, long time, I felt like I'm doing the right things. I care about healthy eating. I read the labels, I read the articles, etc., and I stay quite naturally slender. Everyone should do what I do, right? And then in my 40s, everything started to change and I felt like my body was betraying me. It didn't feel like my body at all, really. It just started acting totally weird. I felt like I was still eating pretty healthy. I was reading more and more and more. I was applying the article and book advice that seemed to make sense. I would try certain diets. I did Weight Watchers for a while. I would learn what I could learn and soak up the knowledge that was out there in the marketplace, and it would seem to work for a while. But year after year, from about age 42, I was gaining more and more weight. So it seemed to work, and then it would seem to rebound, and it would seem to work, and it would seem to rebound. And during these times, when I look back, I was becoming more and more attached to indulgent, special food and drink, wine pairings, and 5-seed bread, etc. And so I was developing this eating and drinking approach that was feeling a little not healthy, but also I think I do this pretty well. But by the time I was 55, so more than 10 years of this isn't working, I'm trying, it seems to work temporarily and then it doesn't seem to work. I was 60 pounds overweight by that point. I felt super uncomfortable at that size. I felt super uncomfortable with my clothes. It was stressful trying to get dressed to go out. I felt like I was trying to hide myself. I also had terrible pain and inflammation throughout my system. By age 55, I really couldn't even go for a walk anymore because my feet had so much inflammation. I also was diagnosed pre-diabetic that year, and I started working in nursing homes as a psychologist for a while I was starting my new business. And I had this big wake-up call because A lot of people in nursing homes were not that much older than me. I didn't expect that. I expected them to be in their 90s or at least their 80s, but there were a lot in their 60s and 70s. And many of them that were my clients were telling me, you need to get me out of here. My kids are taking my car. They are selling my house. All my stuff is gone. I don't belong here. You need to get me out of here. So I started working on that. Okay, what are the conditions they have? And can I help them figure out how they can get well again and get out of here? And the answer was no, never. By the time you're at that level of need, you've passed a threshold, it doesn't turn around anymore. But the thing that really struck me, they're younger than I thought. They're not much older than me. And most of the conditions they have are caused by eating and drinking more than anything else. So they've had a stroke, they've had heart disease, they've had high blood pressure, they've had diabetes, they've had dementia. All of these things, as I studied this stuff, are more tied to our eating and drinking than anything else. These are diseases that people almost didn't have 200 years ago. They have become the most common diseases. Most of us are ending up with them in our later years and in this chronic state of decline. I thought, well, I love the way I eat. I feel like I do it right. I've always felt like I eat right, like I eat healthy, like I care about it, but I also care about like it being really special, right? So I thought I'm going to have to change this, and I can't seem to find good answers in the marketplace. I'm trained in evidence-based practices. And when I looked at the question of, okay, I read this book, I read that book, I read the paleo stuff, I read the intermittent fasting stuff, I read all these things, they all seemed right. The doctors have their advice. That doesn't actually seem to be working for the population as far as long-term results. I realized I actually don't know what works predictably and reliably for lasting weight loss, for reversing the prediabetes condition, for like getting your best health. I don't know. I've seen a lot of research, but it all conflicts with each other. So I decided I have to go to the research myself. I can't trust the popular media to guide me well anymore. It's not guiding us well as a population. And with the evidence-based practices lens, I did find 4 guiding principles for how to eat that make sense and that work predictably and reliably. Like in hundreds and hundreds of studies, we see that following these 4 principles leads to big changes in all those diseases and in the overweight, et cetera. I also found as I was studying all that, some specifics about quantities that help me ensure that I really am following these principles and not fooling myself. Because research shows we fool ourselves about how healthfully we're eating. And our environment supports us to do that. Because eating healthy really doesn't make anybody rich like eating non-nutritious stuff does. So without any clear guide or mentor to guide me, no real support, I was doing this on my own. And I was crying about it because I thought I've got to give up all these things that are really important to me. And I don't know if it's going to work anyway. And it feels hard and I feel really alone. And little by little, I stopped crying because I started realizing this is actually really working. It's actually feeling really good in my body. It's actually pretty wonderful. I worried it was going to be really sad. I was going to be missing out on a lot, but I'm actually not feeling that way. Like that worry isn't actually happening. I'm eating abundant, highly nutritious foods, and it's not sad or difficult like I thought it was going to be. It's a big change to eat only highly nutritious foods. Actually, what we see in the research is the average person is only eating 27% of their diet is highly nutritious foods. So changing to eat more like 100% highly nutritious foods, it's a big change. And I thought it was going to be really hard. It took some attention. I had to pay some attention, but those foods feel so good in the body so quickly. Your body starts telling you, thank you. It's like it breathes a sigh of relief. It can start focusing on fighting cancer again. It can start focusing on healing things that you need to heal. And I started realizing, actually, now that I cut out those non-nutritious things, the nutritious things actually taste good. I don't know if you know, our taste buds regenerate over 2 weeks. So you might have noticed if you take a break from the non-nutritious stuff, the nutritious stuff starts tasting a lot better. And then my mindsets started shifting in a big way, like how I viewed food and drink. Like, oh, I know this isn't good for me, but it's just a treat. It's just a special occasion. I won't have too much. I'll just have a little. This kind of excited, stressful approach to food and drink really started shifting. I started viewing food and drink as things I enjoy, but not in this stressful, overly excited kind of way, in much more of a calm kind of way. Like, is that going to be nourishing? Is it going to be plentiful? Is it going to be enough for my body to really make good use of it? So as I started approaching food and drink differently, it became easy to eat and drink the nutritious things. I started viewing my body differently. So I realized, like, I don't know if you know Byron Katie, one of her phrases, I was studying her a little bit while I was making these changes. And one of her phrases is, when we argue with reality, we suffer, but only 100% of the time. So I was arguing with reality in this way. I know this isn't good for me, but it's not that bad, and my body shouldn't react to it. I should be able to drink wine. I should be able to drink one glass of wine and just stop. I should be able to do that on the weekends and not drink during the week. All these I should be able to. They just weren't true. It just wasn't the reality. So I started to accept reality. Okay, body, I can tell you don't react well to sugar. I can tell you react well to vegetables. I don't want to eat plates full of vegetables. That's not how I grew up. The vegetables were kind of the punishment food a little bit, but I started trying to figure out, how can I make my body happy, accepting the reality of how my body actually works. And I started having this attitude of, okay, everything I eat or drink either helps my body or harms my body. That's a completely different mindset from, this is just a treat, and I know it's not really good for me, but I don't think it's really bad for me, and I'm just going to have a little. It's a very different kind of mindset. So my mindset started shifting, and I started getting committed to, okay, body, I'm going to figure out what you need, and that's what I'm going to eat. And I'm going to be committed to that, and I'm really going to do my best with this. So changing my eating changed my life in big ways. It changed my health in big ways. That pain and inflammation issue I'd had for decades really evaporated. I was able to go off pain medications. The prediabetes reversed. You've probably heard me talk about some of this stuff before. My energy came back so naturally. My sleep recovered. All these symptoms disappeared, the hot flashes, all those things, because there's all these other hormones in our bodies that are interacting. When our estrogen disappears, it starts to really show the symptoms that may have been hidden before. And my weight, right? I was able to release those 60 pounds and keep them off for years. It just became quite natural. So changing my view of food and drink, it was very liberating. Like, instead of, oh, can I have this? Am I allowed to have this? If I have this today, how will I make up for it tomorrow? All that stuff went away. Like, this overly excited and stressful approach to food and drink went away. It also liberated me from emotional eating and stress. I used to really dig into certain foods and drinks that weren't good for me when I was emotional, when I was stressed. And that whole behavior went away so much more naturally than I thought it would. Like, when I just tried to make that go away, it didn't. But when I focused on healthy eating and, like, I'm going to figure this out, I'm going to do this meal after meal because it's what I deserve, because I want to feel well into my 80s and 90s until the end, not end up in the nursing home like my patients. So I changed my food and drink view, and I changed my view of my body. So rather than, come on, body, just don't react to this. Like, when I used to have wine every night, I felt like I needed it to calm down. I felt like I needed it to be able to sleep. But then it would cause this anxiety reaction. Well, that's what it does, right? It causes this calming reaction for about 20 minutes, and then an anxiety reaction rebound effect. I just really changed how I approached my body. I'm not going to tell you you have to react this way. I'm going to notice how you react and give you what you need to be your best, because that's the best chance I have for feeling well to the end. All right, so to get life-changing results, we need to change our eating in ways that make sense to our body. There's no escaping this. It doesn't matter what people tell you. Sure, have cheat this and cheat that. If it's not working for your body, it's not working. So we can just figure out how to quit cheating and just give our bodies what they need. That's what I got committed to. That's what my clients have found really works. It feels kind of gorgeous, like it gets you out of that whole stress situation. And the results for your body aren't temporary anymore. You're helping your body be really well. So to eat much more healthfully than we've learned to eat in our environment, we do have to change certain mindsets. And we have to make these new eating habits quite automatic so they get very easy, in spite of the fact that everyone is going to try to pull us into old ways of eating, into status quo ways of eating that are turning out really badly for our health and our weight. So let's look at how the diet mindset and the healthy eating mindset are really 180 degrees different from each other. I think this could help you. All right, so dieting mindsets are like this. I just have to eat less and be hungry. It's going to be kind of miserable. I'm going to be suffering. I'm going to be hungry, but I'm just going to do this for a while to lose the weight, and then I can go back to eating more again. This is a great way to get temporary results, both because of how it affects your body and because of how it affects your mindset. Temporary changes are going to produce temporary results. Also, the idea that I have to eat less is a wrong idea. It's an approach that doesn't work. And I just have to be hungry while I lose weight is a terrible idea. What we find is we focus on eating abundant, highly nutritious foods, and we don't experience that hunger. Like you might get hungry at 4, 5, 6 hours when it's time to eat again. You might get an appetite, but we're not going around feeling hungry all the time. That is something we can't really succeed with. It's not a sustainable approach. So those are mindsets that lead us in the wrong direction. The foods I crave the most, the foods I love, they're just treats. They may not be the best thing, but they're important. I need to keep them in my diet somewhere. That whole idea, the foods I love the most are the non-nutritious things, is an idea I wanted to change. Okay, I want to quit saying I love those non-nutritious foods. My body doesn't love them. I am saying I love them because they're tasty, because they're convenient, because they're fast, because they're highly promoted. They're highly profitable for the food industry. I don't want to say I love them anymore. I want to change my mindset. I want to intentionally fall in love with nutritious foods and fall out of love with non-nutritious foods. And we say to ourselves, I just have to use more willpower. And this is a terrible mindset because we can only willpower our way out of bad habits for so long before we can't keep it up. Because willpower is a very finite resource. It wears out. And so this is one of the reasons why we can't have success with this. We're having to use willpower, and that's only going to hold up on a good day. It's only going to hold up till the end of the day, lots of times. It just doesn't work. I just have to use willpower and do something that's really painful for a while is a terrible mindset that's a setup for failure. Does that make sense? Here's another dieting mindset. If I eat something that isn't good for me or I eat too much, I can make up for it tomorrow. Who says? Your body has ways of making up for what you eat or don't eat every time. And your body starts processes. It might start processes like making you more hungry, storing excess fat. It starts this whole system of processes. We can flip the fat switch off by doing consistent actions in the right direction so that I can make up for it. No, your body's going to make up for it. It might drive up your blood pressure. It might drive up your blood sugar. It's going to cope with what you did each time. It's not like you're going to exercise off the excess calories you ate today. This is a big idea in dieting. It's just not true. It's not a helpful mindset for looking at your body. And I talked about it earlier. I'm just dieting temporarily, and I'm going to eat what I love and miss once I lose the weight. Yeah, it's a great way to lose some weight and then gain it back. So once I dug into the research from an evidence-based practices perspective, I realized all those thoughts and beliefs and mindsets are wrong and are leading us in a terrible direction. You can change your mindsets with intention. This is something a psychologist knows. I started realizing not only can I change my eating, but I can change my mindsets to make the new way of eating, the healthy eating way of eating, work so much better. So what have you observed about mindsets? I'd love to hear. So I got this side-by-side comparison. In dieting psychology, our emotional attachments to food and drink are very big and very exciting and very stressful. What we find with a truly healthy eating psychology is completely different. So what I hear from my clients all the time is I feel so much calmer. I'm really enjoying the nutritious foods. It feels nourishing. It feels energizing. My body tells me it's happy, but not happy in a, oh, I'm so excited kind of way, happy in a calmer kind of way. And those are actually two different chemical systems in our body. So we can eat in a way that's giving big dopamine hits, or we can eat in a way that's giving serotonin hits. And this is a calm kind of happiness, calm kind of pleasure. This is an exciting, I can't get enough kind of pleasure. I started realizing I don't actually want that feeling associated with food and drink. It's not serving me. I am going to leave that whole kind of feeling about food and go towards a calmer kind of enjoyment. Like I really feel good nourishing my body. Dieting mindset is that the cravingful, highly processed, non-nutritious foods are treats. They're special. They're the best things. I love them. This is so good. Like that whole kind of reaction now looks like an addiction reaction to me. It's not something I'm going for anymore, especially since I started noticing I'm only attaching that kind of feeling and excitement to non-nutritious things. This is how 73% of our diet ends up being those things, right? Those things that the food industry is making cheap, highly profitable, and highly addictive. Like I don't need that in my life. So a healthy eating psychology is I notice the highly nutritious foods feel really good in my body, and I thoroughly enjoy them in a calmer way. Can you see that? Dieting psychology, I have to suffer through this weight loss. I have to deprive myself of the most valued foods for a while. On the other hand, a healthy eating psychology is I actually really enjoy eating highly nutritious foods. I choose to eat them. I choose to eat them in abundance. There's no suffering involved. Can you feel how different that is? I love hearing this from my clients. I just eat this way and I love it. It's not hard. They tell me all the time, it's not hard, it's easy. That is partly mindset, right? Dieting psychology, dieting mindset is I'm making temporary changes and I can't wait to go back to my old ways. This is never going to work if we think about it, right? Healthy eating psychology is I'm making long-term lifestyle changes. I'm committing to eating healthy day in and day out, meal after meal. This is just how I eat and I love it. There's another emotional side, a mindset of I feel ashamed of my indulgent eating and drinking. I wish I could stop. I wish I could do less. I wish I could moderate better. And a healthy eating psychology is I feel proud of feeding my body what it actually needs, feeding it really well day after day, meal after meal. 180 degrees difference in the psychology of healthy eating versus the psychology of dieting. Can you hear that? So there's a lot of mindsets I've developed that have really helped me and the men and women that I work with to succeed. They're 180 degrees different. If these insights are helpful to you, please like, comment, share, subscribe to make sure you keep getting content about healthy eating and sustainable weight loss after 50. I put out new content usually about every week. So let's notice one big fundamental mindset that drives the whole difference. It has to do with the foods and drinks that we value the most. These are the good ones. These are so yummy. These are so special. These are so delicious. The cookie table, the table of pies, etc. What I realized, there was a lot of good and healthy stuff in my background as far as eating, but I did start falling in love with sweet things very young. Like when I would get a little bit of allowance or some babysitting money, I would go to the homemade candy store and get special chocolate. And it was very, very delicious, very, very special. But from childhood, I was really developing a strong attachment to sweet things, also salty, crunchy things, right? So all those things became important to me. And until my 40s, until menopause, it didn't seem like I couldn't see any way it was hurting me. But it started to show up after the estrogen started disappearing, when I got prediabetes, when I had so much pain and inflammation I could barely walk, when I was carrying 60 extra pounds and they were really resistant to coming off. Like I had crossed certain thresholds. So apparently, maybe this was never working that well in the first place. So here's a set of mindsets that I have developed that have really helped me and the men and women I worked with to succeed. So one is, I'm not going to say anymore, it doesn't matter if I eat this. This is just a small thing. It doesn't matter. I started saying to myself, it matters to my body what foods I eat a lot, every time. It always matters. It's a lie to say it doesn't matter. And it's a lie that serves the food industry, not me. Here's another one. Everything I eat or drink either helps or harms my body. I'm not going to fool myself and say, it's not good for me, but it's not really that bad for me. I don't think it's really going to hurt me. I think I was hurting my body pretty much every day of my life until it really started to show up as a problem. I started saying to myself, my body really thrives when I eat truly highly nutritious foods in abundance. It really heals. Like all this kind of magical healing power of my body started showing up when I started eating that way. And here's another one. My body thrives when I eat only truly highly nutritious foods. It doesn't have to be battling with excess sugar or excess processed foods, which research shows are truly harmful to our body. Here's another one. Those cravingful, highly processed, non-nutritious food-like substances are not necessary. They are not helpful. They are not benign. They do not help my body, and I don't want them in my body. So I don't call those treats anymore. I call them chipniffles, cravingful, highly processed, non-nutritious, food-like substances. They don't belong in my body. They're not benign. Furthermore, I tend to react to them with cravings for more. So they're harmful to my body and they produce cravings. And I can't even tell you how amazing it feels to lose all those cravings. If you've ever done an elimination diet, like people tell me they did Whole30, they did something where they cut out sugar and alcohol, for example, for a month. And pretty quickly they started realizing I'm not having any cravings. And that is an amazing feeling. So to get that started up again, because I've tried, it's been something like 8 years for me since I changed my eating, 8 to 10 years, something like that. And so I've tried bringing those back and the cravings get going again just like that. They just are not benign in my life and for a lot of us. So if I start having a little of those and then I start getting cravings, eating starts to become stressful for me again. I don't want to choose the healthy foods anymore and it becomes this battle. And I could start gaining weight again, which is just an indicator that things are going the wrong track. It's not the be all and end all important piece here. I hope this helps you understand how important it is to change your mindset as you're in the process of changing your eating to do truly healthful, slenderful eating. Once your eating approach is clear and your mindsets are geared towards success, finding the practical solutions to obstacles that come up, to being able to maintain these good habits, it becomes easy to find those, right? So what mindsets have gotten in your way with healthy eating? I'd love to hear. If this was helpful, please like, please comment, please subscribe. Let me know what mindsets you've noticed that you find are not helpful. All right. I hope this was helpful. Take care.